but Mr. Moneybags was in super good form when he ran behind about our time. So I thought JC's Nightcap will have a pace advantage, and he's just a legit turf horse. Men of Kyle, he did earn a strong figure and against Texas Breds, 2 starts back, but that was at 1 mile. At this distance, I think he may have too much work to do.
Yeah, I agree. He is simply not a sprinter, and I do not like non-sprinters in 5-ace races. That said, I have him third as well. I went with Mr. Moneybags. I've kind of gone down the drain, if you will, with this horse twice in a row. Very questionable tactics 2 races ago where they wrestled him back to last, and he did rally up pretty well, but he's a one-dimensional sprinter. And then last time he drew in a very, very sharp direct dial on the main track and ran pretty well. Was well clear of a nice horse in Kenai Bob, who we'll see later today in the Wayne Hanks. I don't know if he's going to like the turf. He's going to be a short price. I kind of like your pick here, but I went 3-1-2. On we go to the third. 1 mile, fillies. These are non-winners of 2.
Yeah, and I think Carl Broberg must think he's going to win this race because he has Arima next, it'd be next Saturday, and a non-winners of 3 claimer. So, unreal how this happens sometimes.
Well, it's better than having her be entered at the same condition next week, which some trainers in some days will do, which I don't care for.
Because I just did the morning line for next Saturday's race, and Arima, I made a slight favorite in that non-winners of 3 race. So, hopefully, not hopefully. I mean, I try not to pull for one horse against another, but the figures look very good for this horse. Back on the main track, where I think she's slightly better on the main track. You can see her dirt fast form is really good. 3 in the money finishes a 7, not near that good on other surfaces. So I'm taking a Remont. Flurry of Feathers is a horse that's done nothing but run around 2 turns, so I certainly like that. Debuted, finishing 3rd at Remington Park in a maiden special weight race. Did break her maiden at Turf Paradise, just 2 starts back. And overcame some traffic trouble that day to do it. One thing I thought was interesting clocking this season, and first time seeing Sean Davis, is his horses work fast. I mean, he's kind of like Ellen Milligan and some others. You expect to see fast works. And this filly has not worked fast. So it just makes me a little bit reluctant to think she's going to run her best race, but nevertheless, on paper at least, she's an obvious contender. And then the 2, Kalaniki, you just got to like the company she's kept at Oaklawn, Santa Anita, Del Mar over the last, 8 months. So she's certainly kept good company. Broberg has her now running her for the 4th time. She's ran okay. Her best race was actually a turf sprint. This is a 2-turn dirt race. But I think Kalaniki's one of those Brobergs. Probably win, but it looks like a vulnerable, contender to me, our favorite.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, what really is she? She's 0 for 7 on dry, fast tracks, 1 for 9 on the turf. She's stretching back out. I mean, I've got her second because I think some of her races last year are good enough to win this. Mm-hmm. But I think Arima's a justified short-priced filly here. And I think she competed quite well with some really nice ones at Oaklawn Park this spring. Broberg has claimed her back. He had her at one time and briefly and then lost her, and he claimed her back. That's a good sign. So I went 1, 2, 4 in this spot. Flurry of Feathers is kind of an X factor as well, like you mentioned. So 1, 2, 4 for me in that one. On we go to the 4th. Maiden special weights here. These are 3-year-olds and up. This is an interesting race, too, because you got 5 Dreams, who has been heavily favored in, 6 consecutive races. Is going to be heavily favored again today. Has run 2nd in 5 straight. And is this finally going to be the day?
Yeah, I can't wait for your analysis of this one. But, no, 5 Dreams has finished 2nd in 6 consecutive sprints on the main track. The only race he did was a 2-turn race on synthetic surface at Turfway. So 6 race seconds, as you mentioned, been the favorite in every one of them, been odds on a couple times. Not for me. This horse can win and pay $380, and, I'll sleep tonight. This is not the type I want, though. I went with Dial in for Loot. I just felt like this was a race to take a new face. I like the pedigree. I love trainer C.R. Trout. He does a tremendous job with his homebreds. Was training well in the spring at Oaklawn Park. took a little time off, returned to Lone Star, and each work to me has been a little bit better than the previous work. Culminating June 18th in a 48 flat gate work in company. The turn time, anytime a horse finishes a gate work in under 24-second turn time, they've almost been automatic picks for me. And this one was 23:65 turn time. So finished up really well. I think dial in for Lute. With an apprentice rider, they take the 5 pounds. I'm just taking him today. Summer Splash, I actually took second. I know that he finished behind Five Dreams last time and 7 lengths behind, but showed terrific early speed. A series of work since that race. I feel like maybe today might make an easier lead or at least be a more fit horse. Also cutting back a 16th of a mile. I think Summer Splash, who, we really liked going into that race. I mean, I did at least. I thought he'd run a much better race than he did, but he's very fast, and today might be the day. And then Five Dreams, who, let him beat me.
Well, yeah, I mean, he, I don't know. For one thing, Irish Unity, who beat him last time, could beat this field running backwards, as a clocker in L.A. once said. And the horse before that he ran against, Say It Ain't Sony, that he ran second to, could also beat this field, probably starting from behind the gate in Say It Ain't Sony. So, all due respect to the others in here, I mean, Five Dreams, he may run second again. Your pick may win. Your rider may get his second career win, and if he does, good for him. But I'm going with the favorite here because I think that in this case, I mean, this horse isn't running second repeatedly at bottom-level state-bred races. He's hooking really nice horses over the course of this streak of second-place finishers, and he is tending to be second by a wide margin, so he's running into horses that are just a little bit too good for him. So I'm going to give him one more shot, and then I will never pick him again for the rest of eternity. But I'm going with him over Summer Splash. I have dial in for Lute third. One thing that is interesting here is this made me feel old. I've been doing this for a long time. I took a long time off to do baseball and hockey, but started in the early 80s. Give it everything. I tracked this horse's pedigree, and I called this horse's great-great-granddam, I think, in a race at one point in my career. So that makes you feel old. But nonetheless. All right. So I think today's the day for Five Dreams. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's between his ears. It's not that he isn't talented enough. I'm just not so sure he wants to push through.
Yeah,
because in this streak, he hasn't even made the lead at any call, this year at least. So we'll see.
Say It Ain't Sony ran a really nice race yesterday. Irish Unity is that horse that's a half to 4 graded winners.
Yeah, he's in right here.
So, yes, and he's got a 1 next to him because I think he's going to beat this field. A non-winners of 2 here in the 5th at 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah, and I like Irish Unity. This is my most likely winner today. I was very impressed with his career debut. Contested or battled for it, honest fractions, and drew off to win by, 4 1/4 lengths. That was in a fast time. Certainly bred to be a nice horse. I see no reason why this horse won't keep improving for Asmussen, and drew a favorable post, too. I love being on the furthest outside in a field of 6 like this. The 6, Brad's Time, if you like him, I mean, you've got plenty of reasons to like him. He also debuted this past month for Diodoro in his case. He, too, was close to even a little faster pace than the race Irish Unity came out of. He, too, drew off to win by nearly 5 lengths. The runner-up, He's a Bomb, did come back to win. Flattered him a little bit. Nice little maintenance breeze since then. Lane Leslie keeps the call. Diodoro, he's exceptional. 1 last start, 30% winner, so he usually spots them well after they get a win. And then the 3 horse in here, American Code, somewhat of an interesting horse. The 2 buyer figures at Houston were very fast. You can see faster than what the top 2 earned, but seems to be going downhill a little bit since then. I think the cut back to a sprint distance, so may really help American Code.
Yeah, American Code's an interesting case. $350,000 yearling purchase once upon a time. Is a half to a couple of pretty nice horses, and is just kind of toiling away, at this level. But finds himself in a little bit tough here. I mean, Irish Unity, we talked about his breeding last time. I mean, he's a half to Mohaman. He's a half to a Breeders' Cup juvenile winner in New Year's Day. I think him and Brad's Time both kind of sat similar trips last time. They were kind of up there forcing the issue, and they both just drew off and whistled by basically the same margin. I prefer Irish Unity only because I think he was more impressive visually, and Brad's Time was a really bad gate actor, and you just don't know. Maybe that was just his debut, and he's worked those kinks out, or if he's going to be a bad gate actor again today, whereas there was nothing wrong with Irish Unity's performance. And I'm curious to see how Five Dreams runs the very race before. If he runs another poor race, that could sway things, because like you said, one of your better picks lately, He's a Bomb, did come back and win to flatter that. So I went to 7-6-3 in that race as well. Mesta Park is kind of the X factor for me. If the top choices fold in that race, Mesta Park, which is an old, very nice area near downtown Oklahoma City, had a really nice debut win against Oklahoma breds at Will Rogers, and obviously detested a sloppy track.
Right.
On to the 6th. Maiden Special Weight fillies scratch the 8 Tenacious Girl.
Yeah, I think this is a really a nice race. Competitive maiden special weight race. I like the 7, Content, who last time out at Houston on April 2nd broke last, which appears to be a habit for her in her short career. She's broke last twice. Finished up really well, beaten less than 2 lengths. I noticed the 4th place finisher, Sheer Devil, did come back to win in a little faster time, kind of legitimizing the nice buyer figure. The workouts have been very good for this Tina Hurley trainee. 6 and 114, we don't see that all that often. Went out a little fast. I remember at the end of this work, she was looking for the wire, went out a little quick. But some really nice works. A final quarter in 23 and 1 on May 29th at 47 and 3. That work really got my attention. So, if she'll break well, I think she has a lot of early speed. She just hasn't been able to show it yet because of 2 really bad starts in her first 2 races. Lemieux also broke slowly in her last race here, June 6th at Lone Star Park. Rallied up really well to finish second behind Markup. Was 4-5 that day for Asmussen. She's also bred extremely well, this daughter of Tappet. And the 5, Captain Beyond. I like a couple of the sprint races, or races at Oakland, I should say. They were routes, actually. Last 2 races, a mud race going 7/8 of a mile at 3-1, did not run well. Decided to stretch this daughter of Pioneer of the Nile out. Asmussen did. They bet down to 8-5. Led for better than 6 furlongs and faded. The turn back in distance, might do the trick here.
Yeah, I gave up on her entirely. I'm not using her. If she beats me, I'll tip my hat. I think she's one of the slowest Asmussen horses in his barn. I'm surprised she's not in for 7,500, quite frankly. But that's because I'm stinging, because I picked her over Real Jewel 2 races ago, and she did not run a step, even though it says she ran 3rd, which is true. But I'm off her bandwagon. But, I am still on the Lemieux bandwagon big time. She stood in the gate a really long time while Markup made a complete mess of the gate loading last time. Now, Markup went on and won that race and won it legitimately. But Lemieux spent 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes standing in the gate and then didn't break well and then had traffic trouble. I still think that that's a pretty good race. And I think it was an excellent race, actually. And I think she's going to connect one of these days, maybe today. Content, that's a really big buyer. That's a really big buyer, that 72 on April 2nd. I'm not saying it's wrong. You're the buyer aficionado. It's interesting. You mentioned the 4th place finisher came back and ran well, but Fashion Rage and Van Haven, the first 2 finishers in that race, haven't worked, and they haven't raced since. And this filly, while she's been working a lot, hasn't raced since either. So that's odd. I think the jury's out on whether that race is going to be productive or not, but it might be. We'll find out in a couple hours. You may very well be right on this one, but I'm going to go to 7-6. I think Beyond Dreams might have benefited from that speedy effort in that race against Lemieux. She folded up late, but she might have benefited from that. I've got her as a 3rd pick because I refused to pick Captain Beyond. On we go to the 7th. Scratch the plain 1 Tasuke, 7/8 of a mile. I don't think there's a whole lot of speed in this race. I thought this was a pretty tough dash myself.
Yeah, this was a tough one for sure. I landed on the 4. Is it Breckens or Bretchens?
We've been Vic said Bretchens, so that's what I've been going
Command.
with.
Yeah, I mean, just real consistent. May 6th was a really nice winner for $5,000. Won by 5 lengths for Broberg. Asmussen claimed this mare, came back, got beat 3 lengths at 2-1 at 5 1/2 furlongs. I think the 7/8 will probably suit her well. Greg Green did claim this mare, and he's won with 2 of his 4 recent claims. So he's been really good, and I love the fact that David Cabrera gets the call here. The 5-horse Upgrade Me is for Asmussen. This horse, could go favored for sure. That's a big drop in class. Been trying to win in one other than now for 5 straight races. You go back, though, when he was entered for 7,500 at Remington, which is the last time he was in for a claiming tag, and he did win that race, narrowly albeit, but you look at his better buyer figures, mid-60s, that's about what Bretchen's Command's been doing. They were very tough for me to separate. Big Tiny will be the favorite on the morning line now, but that had more to do, with his stablemate than him. But nevertheless, he's a late running sprinter who, should enjoy 7/8 of a mile. And you have really strong, connections in Broberg. And this is another one of those cases where Stuart Elliott's not on an Asmussen horse.
Yeah.
And for some reason, that's been somewhat of an interesting angle of late.
It really has. I went off the board a little bit here and took the 7 Musical Millie, a turn back. I think this filly might be kind of a mud freak. I mean, 2 races back at Will Rogers, she beat a 5-horse field by open daylight on a sloppy surface. Then came here and caught a dry track going a mile and was in a race actually with Big Tiny and was kind of close to the pace, chased the pace as a favorite and backed out. Hasn't worked since. In for a tag, a cheap tag today once again. I just think maybe the turn back angle will help, and I just quite frankly didn't really like anybody else in here. So I took her over the number 1 entry. I think I preferred Tasuke over Big Tiny, but nonetheless, I have the entry second and Upgrade Me third. I have Bretchen's Command fourth. I kind of got off her bandwagon. This could be a very good day or a very bad day for me because there's a bunch of horses today that I left downward in the picks more or less because of what they did in the past rather than what they might do today. That might not be a good way to handicap.
We'll see. We'll find out.
Could be a good day or a bad day. We'll see. Now we get on to the stakes part of the card, the Grand Prairie Turf Sprint. We start a run of turf races. Scratch the one, Bob's bad boy out of this one.
Yeah, most of these stakes were head scratchers for me. I mean, they weren't easy. There was no standouts, I mean, these are going to be competitive races. I took Archie Dust in here basically because of his record at 5/8 of a mile. I mean, he's won 7 out of 9. That's an unreal number. Was won back-to-back races here at Lone Star Park against, good opposition. He's won a stake this winter at Fairgrounds. He's also won a couple of stakes last year at Monmouth. So, stake companies, no big deal to Archie Dust. He's so sharp right now, I figured I'd take him. 4 share the upside. Has won 4 of 5 of his turf sprints, so, and he's extremely quick. I think he's the fastest of the fast in here. I was wondering if Steve entered him thinking there might come up wet because he'd be a cinch probably in that situation. But nevertheless, he's got a really accomplished turf sprint record. Hasn't faced quite the opposition on turf as Archie Dust, but nevertheless, buyer figures, pace setup, everything's lined up for share the upside to run a winning race. And the 6 Quirky for Broberg, he was competitive at Belmont in a couple of turf sprints, forwardly placed in both of those in the money finishes. The buyer figures are very competitive. And again, he's been running turf sprints at Belmont, Tampa, and Gulfstream Park. So, if he acclimates to our turf course, he can win the race.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't use him in the picks only because I kind of want to see a local race first, and this turf course can be so different. It's interesting, though, that Broberg spent $80,000 on this horse. That's a really high claim by today's standards or any other standards, really. But I'm with Archie Dust as well. I don't think he's unbeatable by any means, but he is so sharp. I took him over share the upside. My third pick is the 2-7 cents, 15-1 on the line. That's Broberg's other horse here, actually. I just kind of think that he's got a nice sort of chasing style, and if maybe these speedier ones don't don't come together today. Maybe he could pick up some pieces. On we go to the 9th, the Wasted Tears, mile and a 16th on the turf, and this is a really wide open group, and as I mentioned in my preview ticket for the Pick 4, I'm using all of them here except all apologies to the Wittens, but I'm not using Needs No Alibi, but the rest of them I think are kind of a mixed bag here.
So you hit the all button minus the 6.
Yes, I did.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you because you can imagine trying to set the odds for this race.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, again, I've said it before. I wanted to put them all 5-1 and go on to the 10th race. It was that type of race. The locals are good horses. You don't know if they're the stake type that's going to win, and the others, that chip in. Their numbers look similar, but who have they been running against? It's really hard to say. The 2 Curlin's Journey just has won 2 of 3 races, over this turf course. She's very sharp. She finished second in the Blushing Katy at Fairgrounds. A really good credential there. Has tactical speed. Curlin's Journey, slightest of edges. The 3 Valentine's Day, who did finish behind in the Blushing KD Curlin's Journey, but she's been very sharp of late too. The last 2 races at Houston, narrow defeats in stake races at Houston. Now back up here at Lone Star Park. David Cabrera gets the call there. Brandon's Babe, yet another one who's finished narrowly behind Valentine's Day twice at Remington last fall. At Houston at Lone Star has been very competitive, finished 3rd behind Curlin's Journey. That's why I thought Curlin's Journey, deserved to be over Brandon's Babe at least. Terrific turf record, though, for Brandon's Babe. 10 races and 9 in the money finishes and 3 wins. So, yeah. And then I'll just mention Alstown, who I didn't pick, but 5th. I mean, might be able to cruise to the early lead and may keep going. I mean, just a lot of contention.
Yeah, I actually picked Alstown over Quick last time, which, even though Alstown ran a decent race, might be this year's version of me picking Hewlin over Superstock, because Quick on paper and every other way looked like a cinch that day. But nonetheless, yeah, I could see Alstown stretching out and running well. I didn't use some fillies in my top 4 that I still like Brandon's Babe. I mean, it'd be great to see her run a nice race. I went with Curlin's Journey, too. I generally go with her. The filly she ran 10 lengths behind last time, that Peter Miller filly, Laura's Light, is really, really good and was 4-5 in that race. It was taken off the turf. And then Raven's Cry is that Brad Cox filly, who's really, really good as well. So no excuse. I mean, no disgrace in that. But you get her back in her best game, and I think she could be very tough in here. But very wide open race. Tizara, the shipper for Ian Wilkes, clearly overmatched a bit in Kentucky in those higher priced races. She's one of those. If she runs back to a couple of those races last summer, I'll put her right there. I just threw her in there second just to see if maybe a new face could mix things up. Valentine's Day, it looks very solid. Love the way she closes. Zam loves this course and ran a pretty nice comeback race behind Dress Shopping and Frosty Flirt just last weekend. On to the 10th. The Chicken Fried, 5/8 of a mile. This is an interesting turf sprint.
Oh, man, is it ever. This is kind of reminds me of the 9th. I mean, just total man, you just got to research so much and then hope you're lucky.
Yeah.
Yes, it's Ginger, the 3. I made 7-2. I picked this one on top. Strong record, turf sprinting, a 3-time winner. Ran terrific at Fairgrounds, winning back-to-back races. Went up to Churchill Downs, finished second in an off-the-turf sprint. Seems to be in really good form for a trainer who's had a really good year this year and last year, Greg Foley. So I'm taking Yes, it's Ginger from, very close to the lead. The 6 Raintree started. This is likely the pace hitter in here. She's terrific on the main track. She's yet to hit the board in 4, turf sprints. However, it's a big however. I mean, look how much better she's been for Diodoro.
Exactly.
I mean, her races, for Moquette and Williamson were good, especially earlier in her career. But since Diodoro claimed her in Hot Springs, Will Rogers, I mean, she's undefeated. She's won 4 out of 4, won a minor stake at Will Rogers. Her buyer figures are very strong on the main track. So if it's Diodoro and, if it's because of him that she's running so well and her natural speed, she's gifted really fast, I easily go wire to wire in here. And Quick, who just has been very difficult to beat on the Lone Star Turf Course, having won 3 of 4, won her allowance tune-up here on June 12th, in pretty decisive style for her. Quick. You gotta like her chances.
Yeah, I used her 4th as well. I mean, this is a good test for her. She could be up to it. I went with a bit of both. The Mike Maker ship in. I went back and watched her race in April at Churchill. She had no chance, in my opinion, after the start. I mean, the comment indicates awkward start. If you go back and watch it, in that group, Into Mystic is a Brendan Walsh, 6-time winners, earned almost $500,000. Into Mystic is really good. The runner-up in that race came back. I think that bunch is really, really good. And, she didn't run much that day, but she really had a compromising start and had to rush up into contention. And then she caught off the turf races, rained off the turf at Gulfstream. You go back to last year. Some of her form last year, turf sprinting, and a couple of those races was pretty good. She's a former Jason Service, but seems to have gotten over that. So, I'm just going to give her a shot. I'm figuring, I think you mentioned this, that they're shipping this mare here for a non-graded $75,000 race. She's 5 years old. She's won 10 races already. They must just be wanting to get some black type by her name. So I got to think they didn't ship here, just to get a spin around the course. So I'm going to give her a shot.
She's also on Lasix again. So her big numbers last year were on Lasix. The 3 races this year where her numbers are a little low, albeit trouble last time out, back on Lasix might make a big difference.
Yeah. So I'm going to give a shot to her. Yes, it's Ginger, who's very, very dangerous, and I really like her. Raintree Starlet as well. I mean, quick. The rest of them be a little bit of a surprise, but good race.
Mm-hmm.
And on to the finale, the Singletary. Is this named for Virginia Singletary of Pin Oak Farms?
Well, I was hoping it's named after Mike Singletary,
well, could
since
be.
Being a Chicago Bear fan. But I think Singletary won the mile, right? The year we had the Breeders' Cup here.
Well, Singletary the horse, of course.
Yeah.
Well, was Singletary the horse named after Mike or Virginia?
Yeah, he was named after Mike Singletary, but he did win the Breeders' Cup mile here in 2004.
Okay, well, and that explains it. And with Singletary having Texas connections, obviously, then that's got to be it.
Yep.
But Virginia Singletary, who used to have a lot of horses with Donnie Von Hemel, was a great horse owner as well. On we go to the 11th. Actually, Josephine Abercrombie was Pin Oak Stable. Virginia Singletary was somebody else. 1 1/8 on the turf. Scratch the 5, Popular Kid. I guess we'll see him tomorrow.
Yeah.
He's praying. His connections are off, praying for rain for tomorrow.
I guess you're pulling for Maker to have the late double.
Exactly.
I assume you took me and Mr. C
did.
as I did. 3 straight wins at Tampa this winter and into spring, including a $100,000 stake. Went to Gulfstream Park and again was very competitive and high level races there. Mike Maker shipping in, gets Vasquez aboard. Probably save a little ground and then, show that nice late run that he always seems to produce. Carly's Dreams, the local, hopeful in this one. Never worse than second in 4 starts over the Lone Star course. Won the allowance tune-up, went right to the front and drew off to win quite handily. That was a really sharp race there. Draws inside once again, the one to catch, I feel like, and maybe get an easy lead. That's what was a little surprising. You look around here and you're like, wow, Carly's Dream might be on a real easy lead in this race. And if that's the case, I think she can be coached 1 1/8 miles. The 3 Don't Ask, Don't Tell, plenty good enough to win. Had a 6-race winning streak in 2020, and we're talking Lone Star and Kentucky Downs wins. Hasn't raced since November. A series of good works. Steve Asmussen, he's really good at bringing them back fit. Unbeaten in 3 starts over this turf course. I just didn't want to pick horse against this type of competition going 1 1/8 that hasn't run since November. Yeah. But will be no surprise whatsoever if this 7-year-old gelding wins.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I used him second behind me and Mr. C. And I left him. I put him on my pick 4 ticket too, just because I'm just afraid. I'm kind of afraid of him. I'm afraid that if for some reason me and Mr. C doesn't take to this place, that a Don't Ask, Don't Tell or one of these others could upset. But Don't Ask, Don't Tell last year was able to win for a variety of conditioners, was a darling of the claiming box. He won it a mile. He won it a mile in 13/16. He could win on the lead. He could come from off the pace. He could do whatever you wanted. My third pick is the 9 Heart Attack. I mean, he's really facing a better level of competition, but he's been so good this meet. and his last win was so easy, relatively speaking, that I threw him in there for third over Carly's Dream, but I think those two local horses are pretty salty too. They'll get tested against these two.
Yeah, good group. Mile and an eighth too. We don't get a lot of that.
We just saw one yesterday, and I think it was the first mile and an eighth race that I can recall since last summer sometime. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, enjoy the day. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun day today. No high five on the first race. That'll go to the 11th and final today. Good luck in your wagers this afternoon.